Hello and good evening, everyone. I am so sorry for the delay. Gary was delayed. I will let him make his apologies when he comes on. Um, just a quick rundown of what's going to do. But basically, the working group in charge of the amendments to the international health regulations. Um, well, there was a meeting in around about the 14th, 15th of November this year. And it involved the WHO, the World Health Organization, and around 193 governments from around the world. And this was actually a secret meeting, despite what they say. This was a secret meeting. They all got together and they've agreed beforehand, despite what they say, of the amendments. We're going to go through them amendments tonight. You're going to be quite shocked at the amendments that you're going to hear. This is what everybody's been hearing. This is a lead up to the One World Government. This is going to be involving the next pandemic, everything really. They pretty much cover every single base, and they remove pretty much everything we have, basically. So I'll get straight into it. Let me just share the screen, and then we'll start. All right. Can everybody see that? Okay. As I said, the working group for the International Health Organization. They got together on the 14th to the 15th of November 2022, and they decided that the secretaries shall also publish. They've decided they will publish this online. This is how comes we have this document. They have to, because as we all know, they have to tell us. They've published this document. This basically all member states have actually pre-agreed to this. This is what they don't tell you, but they pre-agreed to this. This is pretty much the end of a lot of treaties and a lot of different declarations and constitutions that the WHO and multiple other organisations have actually made. In basically, the decisions in this are going to be binding. They're going to be binding, and as we go through the document, you'll actually see this because you'll see the wording. Just so you know what you're looking at as we go through it. I'm going to read an article, and then Gary's going to read an article, and then we're going to discuss each article and what it entails, basically. So, just for your reference, the proposed amendments to the 2005 International Health Regulations, anything that's struck through. So, if you see a line through it, they've actually deleted that text, so that is no longer applicable. They don't intend to abide by that at all. Anything you see in bold lettering and underlined is what they've actually added to the old declaration. The existing text will be in the same lettering as it sits. So we'll get into the document as we go. Right, I shall start. Article 1, definitions. For the purpose of the International Health Regulations, hereinafter, the IHR, or regulations, this has all just been added, as you can see, is underlined in bold. Health products include therapeutics, vaccines, medical devices, personal protective equipment, diagnostics, assistive products, cell and gene-based therapies, and their components, materials, or parts. Health products include medicines, vaccines, medical devices, diagnostics, assistive products, cell and gene-based therapies, and other health technologies, but not limited to this course. Health technologies and know-how includes organized set or combination of knowledge, skills, health products, procedures, databases, and systems developed to solve a health problem and improve quality of life, including those relating to development or manufacture of health products, or their combination, its application or usage. In quotations, health technologies are interchangeable, used as healthcare technologies. Now, just to quickly go through what is just said there, what you're hearing there is they're relating now to that this is them admitting that the vaccines are actually gene-based therapies. They're actually gene-based. It's exactly what everybody's been saying. It's exactly what has been called out for all this time, and they're finally going to admit it. Moving to the next bit. This is, as you'll see wording that's struck through. When it's struck through, it means they've taken it out of the document. Standing recommendation means struck through non-binding, so it's no longer non-binding. So anything in this document is now binding. It means that it's going to happen with or without our consent. Standing recommendation means advice issued by who for specific ongoing public health risks pursuant to Article 16 regarding appropriate health measures for routine or periodic application needed to prevent or reduce the international spread of disease and minimise interference with international traffic. Temporary recommendation means, and they've struck through non-binding again, so again, this is binding. Advice issued by who, pursuant to Article 15, for application on a time-limited, risk-specific basis in response to a public health emergency of international concern. So as to prevent or reduce the international spread of disease and minimise interference with international traffic. So what they're telling you there is basically, in a nutshell, in that little piece of writing there, they're telling you whatever the WHO decides to issue, what we will do, we have to do. And all the 193 governments will implement this to the best of their ability, without question. As we scroll down, Gary, do you want to take Article 2?
Two minutes now, I'll be within 2 minutes.
All right. Well, I'll carry on with a couple of articles then, and I'll wait for Gary to come in. Right. Article 2, scope and purpose. Okay. The purpose and scope of these regulations are to prevent, protect against, and underline. So they've added this: prepare. So there doesn't have to be an emergency. They can just implement these to prepare for one. Control and provide a public health response to the international spread of diseases. Again, they've added this, including through health systems, readiness and resilience. We're talking about the COVID app here and things of the like, in ways that are commensurate with and restricted to and everything public health risk. So it's not restricted to a public health risk anymore. It's what they decide. So they've now added all risks with a potential to impact public health. So whatever they decide, like they did with COVID, if they decide, even without proof, that it poses a potential impact, they're going to implement these measures. And which avoid unnecessary interference with international traffic. Notice international traffic. I mean, these are some key words in this, and they've struck through and. So it's just international traffic and trade. So it's international traffic trade. So it's not even about us traveling on planes no more. It's just about trade. And they've added this bit: livelihoods, human rights, and equitable access to health products and healthcare technologies and know-how. Okay, moving to Article 3. And this one is something that people really, really have to listen to. Okay. Listen to the wording that they've struck through. Right, Article 3, principles. So this is their principles. So this is the basic fundamental principles that they are going to be working with against us. The implementation of these regulations shall be, okay, it used to be, with full respect for dignity, human rights and fundamental freedoms of persons, but it no longer contains with full respect of the dignity, human rights and fundamental freedoms of persons. They've taken that out of the document, so they don't no longer have to abide by that. So in one pen stroke, they've taken away. So you've got to think about the old people in the homes. You've got to think about people in hospitals. You've got to think about the dignity. So whether it be forced vaccination, things like that. Human rights. A lot of people keep pushing their human rights. Myself and Gary for many years have been telling you, if you read the Human Rights Declaration, they have only ever to be taken into consideration. And there was a reason for that. This has been planned for many years. Okay, so human rights, they only have to consider. It's not like our inalienable rights where they're sacrament. They only ever had to take these into consideration. Based on the principles of equity, inclusivity, coherence, and in accordance with their common but differentiated responsibilities of the states parties, take into consideration their social and economic development. So depending on how poor or how rich the country is, is what they're going to implement. So obviously, us rich countries, we're probably going to incur more of a cost for vaccines and PPE and stuff like that. Two, the states parties shall develop and maintain capacities to implement the regulations in accordance with their common but differentiate responsibilities and respective capabilities, availability of international financial assistance, and shared technological resources. And in this regard, primary preference shall be given to the establishment of functional public health systems resilient to public health emergencies. So they're going to create their own system like they are with the COVID app. The implementation of these regulations shall be guided by the goal, notice the spelling, of their universal application for the protection of all people of the world from the international spread of disease. And they've added this bit again. When implementing these regulations, parties and WHO, that means the World Health Organization, should exercise precaution, in particular when dealing with unknown pathogens. So what you're seeing here is them already laying the foundation for these new variants. So whether it's a new variant, whether they can prove it or not, they can implement this. Right, moving down to number 5. No, 5. The state parties shall implement these regulations on the basis of equity, solidarity, as well as in accordance with their common but differentiated responsibilities and respective level of development of the state parties. So again, dependent on how rich and how developed the country is how they're going to implement this. So again, PPE, contracts, stuff like that. A lot of people are going to get rich off this. New, right? Because it's a new bit. 6. Exchange of information between state parties or between state parties and WHO pursuant to the implementation of these regulations shall be exclusively for peaceful purposes. So what they're stating there is that basically the WHO is going to dictate to all countries, and all countries are going to speak to others and they're going to basically abide by it. So all countries are agreed to help each other to make sure this is implemented. So again, think about what they've just said. They've just said that they're doing away with the clause of dignity, human rights, and the rest of it. So there will be no rights as far as they're concerned, as far as under human rights. Unalienable rights is the only thing we have. Would you like to do Article 4, Gary?
Let me just see if I can find it, Nathan. Where are we?
So, people understanding what's being said so far, this is the WHO is basically saying that they are going to have carte blanche. So when the WHO, like they did with COVID, they can decide something's going to have an impact on us and act. They can lock us down. They can close us off from shopping. They can stop us going to like parties. They can stop us going to events. Anything they like. If they deem that something may be a risk.
And don't forget, if the commissioner or whoever he is has got the say over it, you've only got to get 2 people have a cough and a cold, and he can say, shut the country down, basically.
Yep. Pretty much, yeah.
Because, what they class as pandemic, we might not, but they might say, we're going to shut it down as a precaution. Not really. They just want everything to go tits up. They want to bankrupt everything. That's what's really behind all of this. It's collapse everything, enslave you, and take basically control over every aspect of your life.
Exactly. They have completely removed. This is why me and Gav have always said we've been against the UN. Basically they created the Human Rights Act. So United Nations, and this is what we're seeing here. We're seeing nations uniting under the leadership of the WHO. They created your human rights a long time ago because they never intended for you to keep them. That's why in the declaration it states quite clearly they are only to be taken into consideration. They've actually tricked you to go along with their rights they're giving you rather than the rights you were born with.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why we've always stated since 2016, ladies and gentlemen, that your inalienable rights, depending on where you live in the world, are called different in different parts of where you live, but them are the most important ones, because we've always told you this, that the Human Rights Act is open to interpretation because it's their creation. Your unalienable rights are your born, natural born rights, your God-given
Exactly.
rights. You can't mess with them.
No, exactly. That's why in a lot of different court cases with a lot of different aspects, whether it be immigration and stuff like that, they pick and choose when they use it because in their own declaration it states they only have to take it into consideration. So they only use it when they consider it to be worth using. So for most of you and I, they will not consider it applicable. So if you think your human rights are safe, they never have been, and this proves right here they never was and they never will be.
No. Oh, I don't know why people ain't listening and doing the research on all of this. If everybody was standing under their unalienable rights now instead of your Human Rights Act rights, they wouldn't be able to do this.
No, this is the thing. People don't understand this. It's reason why me and Gary go so much on about our constitution because our constitution actually holds Parliament to account. It's above Parliament's ability through the Bill of Rights to actually legislate. So anything that our government do that is contrary or repugnant to our constitution is void. Once we all highlight it, we stand up and say no. But you've got to do it in the right way. Marching, saying something on Facebook doesn't work. You actually have to do your Article 61. You have to actually do the lawful process to remove their power. This is why we go on about Article 61 so much, because you have no rights unless you actually uphold them, and they've taken away. We're all enslaved through citizenship, through the St Edward Crown. Okay, so the government, through your birth certificate, through your trust, that actually owns you, and this is all done with your legal fiction. This is why you have to do your Article 61, and you have to establish yourselves as living men and women. Once you do that, your unalienable rights, and the word unalienable is the key word there, because you cannot be alienated from. They cannot be bought, sold, transferred, or denied. They are the only rights that are safe.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And once you stand under all of them, you do become more powerful. And we've proved we're going to be doing an actual program in the week with Dennis, because Dennis has just left. That's why I was late. Well, we're going to get him and Tanya on, and they're going to tell everybody how it worked for them only last week when they used it correctly.
And this is the key. Many people have not bothered to learn and not understood our unalienable rights, our constitution, nor our common law properly. And a lot of people have got in trouble. A lot of people have used them incorrectly, and it hasn't worked, because if you don't use them correctly, they can ignore them.
Yeah.
Right. Would you like to go ahead and read Article 4? I mean, this is quite a big document, people, and you're going to need to hear every single bit of this, because at the end of this, there's a basically that they've even give you, and which we'll show you, they've given you an example of the certificates that your doctor will fill out on your behalf.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, and it will state as well at the end of this, whether you can read, write, or not. It doesn't matter. Your doctor can do it on your behalf.
Yeah, it's shocking. Each state party will designate or establish an entity. Now that there for me straight away is a big red flag. An entity.
Yeah, that means a fiction, a legal fiction, a business.
That's what I'm saying. An entity. This is not. They're not going to put a man or a woman. It will be an entity like a government, the health secretary or something like that. It'll be an entity because they're covering the back straight away. An entity with the role of national IHR focal point and the authorities responsible within its respective jurisdiction for the implementation of health measures under these regulations. The w.h.o shall provide technical assistance and collaborate with state parties in the capacity of building the national IHR focal points and authorities upon request of the state parties. In addition, each state party should inform the w.h.o about the establishment of its national competent authority responsible for overall implementation of the IHR that will be recognised and held accountable for the NFF's functionality and the delivery of other IHR obligations. Alternatively, may enact or adapt legislation to provide national IHR
focal points
with the authority and resources to perform their functions, clearly defining the tasks and functions of the then entity with the role of national IHR focal points by implementing the obligations under the regulations. Now that's like Nathan saying, you ain't really having a choice. They're going to implement this whether you want it happening or not, unless you do something about it.
Yeah, and this is going to involve police. This is going to involve another form of enforcement. It'd be like police, but it'll be a different branch that enforces this. They are literally saying here that they're going to empower the medical world with the right to enforce everything, and all member states are going to agree to this. And it's quite states, as Gary just said there. They're stating here the members. So you've got to understand about the government and what they plan to do to us, and they've agreed to this. When the government requests it, so if the government says we need more regulations, we need more lockdowns, the WHO's going to write it out, and it's going to become law.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely shocking, but it's down to, like I said, down to the people. If you want this to happen, just sit and do nothing. But if you don't want it to happen, you've got to start being vocal and active, because this is last chance saloon for humanity, basically, in a nutshell.
Exactly. They do a thing by paper. We have to do it by paper too. Going to London and standing there for the day isn't enough. We have to actually submit our lawful rebellions. We actually have to submit to paper our denial of our acceptance of this. If you just read number 4, then I'll read number 5.
Yeah. State parties shall provide the WHO with contact details of their national IHR focal point and national IHR competent authority, and the WHO shall provide state parties with the contact details of the WHO IHR contact points. These contact details shall be continuously updated and annually confirmed. The WHO shall make available to all state parties the contract details of the national IHR focal points it receives pursuant to this article.
Right,
so basically, anything relevant, they'll keep updating it to suit themselves.
Yep, and note there it says annually, so they're already deciding this is going to be at least by a year basis. So this is not going to end until we end it, people. They are already planning. This is the beginning of the One World Government, the One World Health Organization, a lot of them. This is, you are seeing this, them putting this in their own words to paper.
This is heading towards the what they've said to you, and the WWF have said to you, where they said by 2030 you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, because all this is all linked to Agenda 2130. It's all linked to the smart cities. It's all interlinked. Every single bit of this.
And they've pretty much already said this in this document. So the smart cities, the tracking apps and the tracking devices, tracking who's lead, like we've seen in Oxford and Canterbury, and it's now a couple of other places. You're going to be monitored. You're going to be kept in an area, and you're going to be monitored everywhere you go. You're going to have to get permission to travel outside your area. This is all part of what they're doing. All they've done is they've just slowly got us used to it, so they can just implement this, and then it will be for the greater good. And most people will do this because they think that the WHO has got our best interests at heart. But when you read this document, you can see they're already planning to have medical tyranny upon us, because they can't do martial law in most countries. It's like England, you can't do martial law. So the military can't actually do it, but they can do a medical tyranny.
Yeah.
Right. Article 5. Go on.
You've gone down too far. And don't forget, basically, in these 15-minute walk cities are developing, at the edge of the city, on every exit out of the city, you're going to have barriers. And unless you've got the, you know, the proper paperwork with the barcode on that you can put to that barrier will not open to allow you to go out of your 15-minute walk zone.
No, and we are already
That's
seeing
the
it.
way it's going to be.
Most people should have already been seeing the wooden boxes that they're putting, like in Cambridge, either side of the road, so only one car can travel through at a time. This is checkpoints. This is beginner checkpoints. They're just getting you used to having it there. So when they actually put it fully up, it's not a big leap for you. So you're not going to kick off. It's not going to be a big shock to you. They're gradually getting you used to this.
Yeah. It's not the boiling frog syndrome, innit? That's what it is.
Yep. Right. Article 5, surveillance. Now, not being funny, the word surveillance in itself should worry everybody. Each state party shall develop, strengthen, and maintain as soon as possible, but no later than 5 years from the entry into force of these regulations, and I believe they're meant to be completely enforced in every single part of it by next year, for that state party, the capacity to detect, assess, notify, and report events in accordance with these regulations, as specified in Annex 1. Right, and this is the bit they've added. Developed state parties and who shall offer assistance to developing state parties depending on the availability of finance. So depending on how rich your country is how much the rest of the world is going to have to pay. So what they're talking here is, and what they have done in before is what all the rich countries, they're going to siphon off even more of our taxpayers' money to pay for this fake surveillance agenda.
Yeah.
Technology.
What you got to understand is you're going to be taxed and everything. All your house bills are going up. All to pay for everything. You're paying for your own enslavement.
Exactly. You're actually giving them the money to do this to you. This is why we say get under Article 61, because it's the only lawful way we can withhold our tax money to stop them doing this. Any other way, you're going to get prosecuted and they can just override you. You have to do it lawfully. Availability of finance, technology and know-how for the full implementation of this article. In pursuance of the Article 44, this capacity will be periodically reviewed through the Universal Health Periodic Review mechanism in replacement of the joint external evaluation that began in 2016. And this is where you should start seeing how long they've been doing this for. Such review shall, alternatively, should such a review identify resource constraints and other challenges in attaining these capacities, who and its regional offices shall, upon the request of a state party, so that's your government, provide or facilitate technical support and assist in mobilisation of financial resources to develop, strengthen and maintain such capacities. And they're telling you there now, they are going to take your taxpayers' money, and if your government like we're seeing now, take England for instance, pretty much most people are going to see all the PPE contracts that have gone to all our government's buddies and that lot. Companies that have been set up within 3 months, they've got a multi-million-pound contract. This is what this is talking about. They can just set up a company and they can demand PPE and spend our money on it just in case. So our taxpayers' money is literally, we are going to see, this is where we're going to see a massive breach between, there's going to be no middle class. There's going to be their class and the rest of us. People really need to understand this. 2, following the assessment referred to in paragraph 2, part A of Annex 1, a state party may report to who on the basis of a justified need and implementation plan, and in so doing, obtain an extension of 2 years in which to fulfill the obligation in paragraph 1 of this article. In exceptional circumstances and supported by a new implementation plan, the state party may request a further extension not exceeding 2 years. So we're already up to 4 years, people, from the Director General. And by the way, the Director General, so this is one person, the Director General is the person that makes all these decisions. So it's not an elected party. So what you're seeing here is the end of democracy. There will be no elections. There will be no government.
Well, it tells you there, Nathan. Sorry, it tells you there that the Director General has been crossed out. He's not going to make the decisions anymore. He's going to refer it to the WHO.
Yep. So you're going to basically every single decision our government makes for our well-being and what happens in our country and the health case, they're now deferring it. So one person, a director general, will decide. They will make the decision. No longer will our government make the decisions on what we need based on our needs. It will now be referred to the director general, and he will make the decision, because they
Yeah.
will refer it to the issue to the World Assembly, which will then take a decision on the same. By the way, the World Health Assembly is not elected. It's not accountable. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't pick and choose who's in it. They pick and choose who's in it. So, like I said, this is the end of democracy. This is the end of voting. So there is no voting. So that avenue now is out. Taking into account the technical advice of the committee established under Article 50. Hereinafter, the review committee, after the period mentioned, which is 4 years in maximum, by what they're saying, in paragraph 1 of this article, the state party that has obtained an extension shall report annually to WHO on progress made towards a full implementation. So basically, they are giving you exactly what they're going to do. So they're talking year by year. So if you think the last 3 years of COVID, that was just a test run. This is now, I mean, and that was 3 years, nearly 4 years now, and they've test run it. I mean, we are now going to be under constant situation of what we're going under a COVID, but it's going to be the lockdowns, it's going to be the masks, it's going to be everything. So there's going to be no say against this unless you stand up now.
Yeah. And don't forget, the first lockdown that you're going to have will be a permanent one until all the small businesses are finished.
Yep. They don't want any other businesses. They are going to. You've already seen this through COVID. Look how many businesses, independent small businesses, have been absolutely decimated. All they want is their big corporations. When it's like Gary said earlier, when they say you will own nothing and be happy, they are going to do away with any means you have of earning a
And now
wage.
do you
You won't have your
understand?
company.
Yeah. And now do people understand why Bill Gates had that big smirk on his face when he said, "You'll remember the next one"?
Yep. And it's got this next bit. When I read this next bit, I want people to remember what many people were saying about 5G, the masks that are in your streets, that lot, smart meters, the whole lot. Anything smart is a surveillance technology. Okay, so listen to this. Who shall collect information regarding events through its surveillance activities? So we are under surveillance, and they're going to put us under surveillance. So they're going to watch everything you do. This is the cash society, so it's any bank transfers, anything you spend your money on, anything you do will be that they are going to be surveillance in it. So they will know everything you do. So it's an assess on the basis of risk assessment criteria, regularly updated and agreed with state parties. So in that bit alone, they're telling you if they see people start to use their money or start to do something in a way that may go against what they're doing, they're going to implement ways, and they can, to stop you doing that. They're going to control your money. They're going to control everything. The potential to cause international disease spread and possible interference with international traffic. When they say international traffic, remember what they said previously. This is trade. Okay, they're not on about you going on holiday. That's obsolete. What they're on about is they're not going to allow you to risk their trade routes. Information received by who under this paragraph shall be handled in accordance with Articles 11 and 45 where appropriate, not with an outside party but member states. So our own government again. 4. New wording. Who shall collect information regarding events through its surveillance activities and assess through periodically updated assessments and risk criteria agreed with member states their potential to cause international disease spread and possible interference with international traffic. Again, so they're going to assess your parties. They're going to assess your nightclub going. They're going to assess whether you go to see a band, to see your favourite singer. All this will be assessed. They're going to decide if you're allowed to do this, because if they think, or they can in any way think that this is going to affect international trade, so that passing basically their profit, they're going to implement measures to stop that. Information received by who under this paragraph shall be handled in accordance with Articles 11 and 45 where appropriate. New paragraph 5. Who shall develop early warning criteria for assessing and progressively updating the national, regional, or global risk posed by an event of known or unknown causes or sources, and shall convey the risk assessment to states parties in accordance with Articles 11 and 45 where appropriate. So again, we're talking about any event. They're going to talk about any new variant that they might dream up or anything like that. Literally, they are basically creating a situation where they can create a pandemic, and once they create that pandemic, every single law, so the police and everything like that will enforce it, and your government will be asking for this.
Yeah. They don't, what they don't want you to do is enjoy your life. So basically, that could include things like it's a red hot day, the beaches are packed, somebody's coughed on the beach and gone home and they got the flu, and the paper picks it up. This person's got the flu. The Director General can say, right, shut everything down.
I mean, technically, it can even be worse than that. I mean, we all know that they have capabilities of like listening in on our phones and stuff like that. That's what all this smart technology is about. So when you've got a smartphone, they can have your mic open all the time. So they hear you sneeze. That's enough to then alert another device, which will then put. So why, like Gary says, while you're sitting on the beach, someone sneezes, all of a sudden there's a lockdown.
Yeah.
Complete surveillance of every aspect of your life. Right. Showed about early warning criteria for assessing and progressively updating the national, regional, and global risk to by any event or of unknown causes or sources, and shall convey this risk assessment to state parties in accordance with Articles 1145, where appropriate. The risk assessment shall indicate, based on the best available knowledge, the level of risk of potential spread and risk of potential serious public impacts, based on assessed infectiousness and severity of the illness. So this is where we get things like the Infectious Disease Act and certain things that come in. So if they deem you as possibly infectious, it's enough to trigger this. So just the possibility. New paragraph 5. Strengthen the central role of national health authorities. All right. So the basically our NHS are basically going to become like a military force in essence. In management and coordination with political, intersectorial, interministerial, and multi-level authorities for timely and coordinated surveillance and response in accordance with the international health risks indicated by the international health regulations, thereby consolidating the central role of national health authorities in multi-level management and coordination. What they're telling you there, people, is that basically our NHS and all the hospital and the medical facilities around the world, the medical institutions, they are all now going to become controlled by one entity. This is the one world government. This is the one world authority coming in. They are centralizing everything. Okay, this is what we've got to stop. As soon as they centralize everything, they have complete control. And this is what they want.
And again, that's the same thing again, Nathan. The hospital's only got to have 4 or 5 people going with the same symptoms. They notify, and then again, boom, you're back under lockdown again.
Yep.
It's totally unbelievable. It's shocking.
I mean, people's understanding what they're saying here. I mean, when they say one world government, everything that me and Gary has been saying, it's like you will have no rights, you will have no freedom of movement, you will have nothing. Literally, everything you've seen with the COVID app. I mean, most people listening probably had it, or know somebody. They downloaded the COVID app, then they've been around someone, so someone else has got a text message. How did they know who's been around who? Because the surveillance is extremely high already. This is what all the 5G is about. This is what all the masks are about. It is central to this system. It is complete monitoring of everything you do.
So,
right, would you like to read Article 6?
Yeah. Each state party within 48 hours, well, each state party after the 48 hours focal point receives information about the event shall access events occurring within its territory by using the decision instruments in Annex 2 within 48 hours of the national IHR focal point receiving the relevant information. So again, there, it's if the 4 people go to the hospital with symptoms and the hospital notifies the government, etc., this is all going to happen within 48 hours. Each state party shall notify the WHO by the most effective means communication available by way of the national IHR focal point and within 24 hours of assessment of the public health information of all the events which may continue a public health emergency. Don't keep moving it now. For fucking
Sorry, I was
just in there again. I don't know where I was now.
24 hours of assessment of public health information.
Yeah. International concern within the territory in accordance with the decision instrument as well as any health measure implemented in response to those events. If the notification received by the WHO involves the competency of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the Food and Agriculture Organisations, the World Organisations for Animal Health, the UN Environment Programme, or any other relevant UN entities, who shall immediately notify the IAEA, relevant national and UN entities. This is where they're going to come after your pets, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. This is it's your food, it's everything. So they can the supply lines, everything. So when they're saying that you're going to have lab grown steak and stuff like that, if they decide a farm is a potential for an outbreak of bird flu or mad cow's disease or foot and mouth, all animals can be wiped out. So they can literally wipe out our food chain. Literally.
Again, like I said, it only wants a vet to have 2 dogs go in there with a similar thing and they say this might cause an outbreak of this or that, whatever they decide. They can say, right, we're going to cull all the dogs or all the cats in a certain area.
Yep. And they've told you all this. I mean, most people, when you're reading this and what we're saying, you're going to go. They've said this. Oh, I see a bit about it. They've been building this up. They've been slowly getting you used to this. So they've been telling you what they're going to do. This is where they're going to finalise it all. Complete control.
I mean, we've been telling you for 2 years they're coming after your pets, and everybody laughed at us.
Yep. I mean, there you go. It says in there as well, or other relevant UN, so United Nations entities. So remember what we said earlier about the United Nations creating a Declaration of Human Rights, and they're only to be taken into consideration. So one of the very entities that is going to be governing, and they're going to be referring to, is the very entity that give you the choice to pick the rights they give you or the rights you have when you was born. Yeah. This is legal trickery. This is why you need to stay away from legal, stick with lawful, go with your unalienable rights.
Yeah. Following the notification, the state party shall continue to communicate to the WHO by the most efficient means of communication available. Timely, accurate and sufficiently detailed public health information available to it on the notified events where possible, including genetic sequence data, case definitions, laboratory results, epidemiological and clinical data, as well as microbial and genetic data in case of an event caused by an infectious agent. Genome sequences data if available. Source and type of the risk, number of cases and deaths, conditions affecting the spread of the disease, and the health measures implemented, and other related information as per requested of the WHO. Genome sequences data, and report that when the data, the difficulties faced, and support needed in responding to the potential public health emergency of international concern. With regards to the sharing of genetic sequence data, it will be dependent on the member states' capacity and prevailing national legislation, with the aim of fostering an event-related research and assessment. Lift it up a little bit now, Nave. That's it. The WHO shall make the information received available in all parties and in accordance with the modalities. I ain't got my glasses, so I can't see. To be adopted by the Health Assembly. For better clarity, the provisions of Article 45 shall apply is notifications made pursuant to this article. No sharing of genetic sequence data or information shall be required under these regulations. That's shocking.
Yep. So they don't have to. It's like with COVID-19, that they've got around it now. So the genetic sequencing of whether it be SARS or anything like that doesn't have to be obtained anymore. They just have to say it's there. They don't have to prove it no more.
No, that's what I said. That's shocking. That's like they don't have to. That is not required.
No.
Information is not required anymore. It's just there's a pandemic, so shut up and just stay in your house and do as you're told. That's what that basically means.
Yep.
The sharing of genetic sequence data or information shall only be considered after an effective and transparent access and benefit sharing mechanism with standard material transfer agreements governing access to and use of biological material, including genetic sequence data or information relating to such materials, as well as fair and equitable sharing of benefits arising from their affiliation. Is that affiliation?
Utilisation is agreed to by WHO member states.
Utilisation is agreed by the WHO member states, is operationable and effective in delivering fair and equitable benefit sharing.
By the way, when they're talking about benefits here, they're not talking about what's benefits us. Again, listen to the words in the beginning. All they're concerned about is their trade. So as long as it doesn't affect their business and their profits, they're happy.
Yeah. And don't forget, this is all down to the people allowing it to happen. You're governed by consent. How many times do you need to be told you're governed by consent? Stop consenting. For fuck's sake. Right, new 3. Upon receiving notification from a state party, the WHO shall not transfer the public health information received pursuant to paragraph 1 of this. I can't read it with them big glasses. Provisions. And other information is defined as paragraph 2 of this provisions in establishments, personals, non-state actors, or any recipient whatsoever engaging directly or indirectly, which correlate, or was it conflict,
with conflict and violence elements.
Yeah. Who shall also handle the information in a manner designed to avoid such actors accessing the information directly or indirectly.
Right, so you think you're going to be able to get the information like we have been. So you think we're going to be able to get things like the morticians and stuff out. You think basically in the future, it is not going to be readily available. We are not going to be able to do what we've done with COVID. We're not going to be able to research the side effects. We're not going to be able to research whether they're actually telling the truth or whether it's a lie. That we're not going to be able to research whether, like with COVID, it's never been isolated in any single patient, ever. The only time it's ever been sequenced is in a lab.
Yeah. This sounds to me like they're going to scrap the Freedom of Information Act.
Yep, freedom of information, this brings into it anybody they deem as could be a domestic terrorist or anything like that. Any basically people were saying like in the chat, it's like Danny said, it's like people won't take a lockdown. This is the exact thing they're putting in. So when people do start to rise up, we won't be able to by the time this implemented because they will have authorities in place and systems in place to stop us doing so. Again, this relates to 5G, it relates to our police, it relates to everything. Remember, 5G is a military tech to repel people.
If you're going to do this, you've got to do it now.
Yep. Oh, by the way, the whole plan, as far as I can work out, this is going to be up and running and completely going by the end of 2023. By the end of 2025, there will be no autonomy for any states. It will be complete control. All right. Article 7: information sharing during unexpected or unusual public health events. So basically, this is about information sharing and what information they're going to share in their pandemics. So when they create a pandemic, this is how the information is going to be shared. Following a notification pursuant to Article 6 of an event caused by an infectious agent. So, for instance, like COVID, they say the common cold is going to cause a problem, and it does every year. And this is what this is saying. So even the common cold every year, because everybody gets ill and goes in hospital, that's enough for them to implement this. A state party shall make available to who the microbial and genetic material and samples related to the notified event as appropriate, not later than, and it doesn't say, hours after such material and samples become available. So it could be an hour, could be a week, it could be a year. Note, the proposal for Article 7 is offered without prejudice to further discussion and reflection on where to allocate the issue between the international health regulations and the pandemic agreement. So they're going to decide amongst themselves. So basically, they're going to decide. They're going to see how we're going to act, and they're going to decide. Oh, do we need to do it within an hour? Can we wait? I mean, let's face it. Everybody's been waiting 3.5 years already, just over. So they've already got a time frame that we've allowed them to do. Like I said, we're allowing these people to do this.
Basically, what they're going to do, we've given them now lawful excuse to keep locking us down, and every time you lock us down, some more small businesses go under. Then they'll open it back up. Then the next time they close it down, some more small businesses go. And like Nathan said, this is where it's going to be a two-class system again. Yeah. Poor and rich. No middle class, you're all going to be gone. Simple as.
Right. If you start reading the next bit, one second, I just need to see.
That's number 8, isn't it? In the case of events occurring within the territory, not requiring notification as provided in Article 6, particularly those events for which there is insufficient information available to complete the decision instrument, a state party may, nevertheless, keep the WHO advised thereof through the national w.h.o focal point and consult with the WHO on appropriate health measures. However, where available information is insufficient to complete the decision instrument in Annex 2, the state party shall keep the WHO advised thereof through the national w.h.o focal point and consult with WHO on appropriate health measures within 72 hours of the national w.h.o focal point receiving the relevant information. Such communications shall be treated in accordance with paragraph 2 and 4 of Article 11. The state party whose territory the event occurred in may request the WHO assistance to assess any epidemiological evidence obtained by the state party.
So,
yeah, no.
Yep. Are people starting to understand how this is going? So think back to all the people that said, laughed at 5G. Remember, 5G is military tech. I mean, we've got all masks up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We've got something that can relay, so your phone is constantly giving information. Everything around you, your whole world is going to become surveillance, okay? And they are going to be able to implement these things and act on these whenever they like, and they get to decide how long it goes for and how much regulations they put on us. So it could be wear a mask. It could be a complete lockdown where you're not allowed out of your house for a year.
Yeah.
This
Oh
this
yeah,
is
it's going to
serious.
be. This is shocking. This is unprecedented what they're doing now, and people have got to wake up to what's going on. Because this also, we ain't got to it yet, I don't think, but this is going to lead to whether they think you're allowed to be safe out on the streets or whether you need being put in a camp for your own safety.
Yep, this will come into it all. I mean, they use
Yeah,
very clever trickery, like when they say
yeah,
event. I mean, event
yeah,
can be a small thing, a big thing. It could be anything.
yeah,
I mean, their wording is key in this, and this is how they trick a lot of people because their wording a lot of the time seems benign. I mean, I'm pretty sure most people listening to this are understanding this is not benign. This is nefarious at the very, very, very least. All right, Article 9, other reports. Okay. They've been planning this for many, many years. They've got most of these systems ready to go. This is why we've got the COVID app and stuff like that. All they was doing is testing what they already had. Right,
yeah,
one, who may take into account reports from sources other than notifications or consultations and shall assess these reports according to established epidemiological principles and then communicate information on the event to the state party in whose territory the event is allegedly occurring. Note territory. Right, and this is the bit they've taken out. This used to be in there, but this is no longer in there. Before taking any action based on such report, so they don't have to wait until it's confirmed. They can just act. Who shall consult with and attempt to obtain verification from the state party in whose territory the event is allegedly occurring in accordance with the procedures set forth in Article 10 to this end. So basically, what I'm telling you now is they if something happens in this country, they don't have to get the government to confirm it. So the doctors don't have to test you and then confirm it is correct and then pass it on. The simple fact that someone has stated. So and when they say other
yeah,
sources, they mean your phone, they mean a COVID app, they mean anything. Facial recognition, that they see you with a runny nose, the whole lot. So anything, any other available means that they've got will be a user of a notification. Who shall make the information received available to the state parties and only where it is duly justified? May who maintain the confidentiality of the source? This information will be used in accordance with the procedures set forth in Article 11. And there you say it's there. So they only have to maintain the confidentiality of the source if they feel it's justified. So if they feel it's justified that you don't, I mean, so when somebody gets the flu next year, they don't have to justify to us what it is, how dangerous it is, what effect it will have. They don't have to justify that. It'll be down to them whether they justify it to us or not. We'll just have to do as we're
yeah.
told. Right, three,
It's
new word.
basically on a need to know basis, and you
Yeah,
don't need to know.
exactly. You'll never need to know. You just need to do as you're told. Three,
Mm.
new wording. In the recommendations made to the state parties regarding the collection, processing, and dissemination of health information, who could advise the following? To allow the WHO guidelines on criteria and analogous modes for processing and treating health information. So again, they are going to decide what information you're allowed, whether it's just whether they want you to have it, whether you're entitled to it. This is the pretty much the Helsinki Accord, everything got out the window. So this ain't about informed consent or anything like that anymore. There is no informed consent. You don't have consent. They've taken the consent away from you.
You have nothing. Basically, all you are now is livestock.
Mm.
That's
Again,
all you are. Think
you're
about
legal.
that one.
Most countries around the world use the same. America, England, most countries use the same system. We're a legal fiction. So we're a fiction. We're not even a living man or woman anymore. So then this is showing you they're not treating us as men and women. We are an entity. So they are pulling us into their fictional world. So all this is they're creating a fiction. So it's all make believe. I mean, and we create this world. So if we go along with this, we're helping them create this fictional world that we're going to live in. This is where people actually have to stand up, do away with illegal, do away with your human rights. It means nothing. Start standing as a living man and woman. Start standing in the truth.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Article
10.
10. Within 24 hours of receiving the information, the WHO shall request, and it did say in accordance with Article 69, Article 9, but have you noticed Article 9 has now been crossed out? So it's the WHO shall request as soon as possible or within a specific time verification from the state party of reports from resources and sources other than notifications or consultations of events which may constitute a public health emergency of international concern allegedly occurring in the state territory. In such cases, WHO shall inform the state party concerned regarding the reports it is seeking to verify. Pursuant to the foregoing paragraph, and then it said 9, but don't know. It says each state party, when requested by the WHO, shall verify and provide A, within 24 hours, an initial reply, 2, or acknowledge the request from the WHO, B, within 24 hours, available public health information on the status of events referred to the WHO's request, and C, information to the WHO in the context of the assessment under Article 6, including the relevant information as described in paragraphs 1 and 2 of that article.
Right, 2 seconds, Gary. I just need to speak. Danny, no one said that it's going to work for your TVs and anything like that. And what a lot of people don't know is 10, 15 years ago, the military had to stick a big dish on a big military vehicle and use it in that manner. And it was still mobile on a car. So imagine now, 10, 15 years in the future, and now imagine 20 lampposts with receivers and emitters around a certain area, so they can create literally like a electric fence type thing around an area. Most people misunderstand the 5G technology. We're not saying it's going to come for your phone or your TV. If you actually, and I've said this before, if you actually look at a lot of the 5G towers and stuff like that, the input cables that put power into these lampposts and these terminals are over engineered. Okay, they are capable of putting more power than they're saying they are, so they can just ramp it up. So the infrastructure is already there for them to increase the power and actually create these into something. We're not saying that's a thing, we're saying it's a possibility, and there is actually documentation and experiments and certain things to say that this is the likelihood of the way they're going to go. They're already saying they don't want you getting out of an area. Crowd control technology and the way they're using it is probably going to be the easiest way to do it. So it won't be for your TVs and things like that. They're actually putting the infrastructure in as we speak. Research the power inputs, the cables, and how many watts they can actually put into it, how many kilowatts, should I say, and stuff like that. There's a lot they haven't been telling us, and what happens is we've had a lot of people that laugh at 5G because they've never done any research into it. And they've been telling people a lot of mistruths all the way along. The government have, because they didn't want you to know this. They're not going to tell you. I mean, look at the private industry, okay? If you look at the private and the public industry, okay, the private industry have a lot better tech than us. It's take aircrafts and military equipment. The private sector create so much more than the public sector, and that's for a reason. They don't tell us what they've got until it's there. So do you honestly think they're going to come out and say, oh, by the way, we've got the power to do this and then do it? They're not. We're not going to know what they're capable of until it's implemented. It will be until it's too late. So you can't. You are right, Danny. It's not. They're not going to be bombarding you with like 5G repel technology, anything for your TVs, but they will be using your smart TV to tell what's going on in that house. The lamppost outside your home homes are capable of basically x-raying your home so they can tell who's in your house, where they are in your house. The technology is far beyond what people actually realise.
And don't forget, that's why they're building these smart cities now, getting everything into place. So when you're moved into these smart cities, all the technology they need is, it's there. It's like bugging a house and then moving somebody in to listen to everything they're doing. You bug the house first, then you put the people in. That's what they're doing. They're building the smart cities with the technology everywhere they need it and what they need, and then that's when the people will be moved to these smart cities, and then your life's over, basically, as you know it,
I mean,
because you'll be monitored, surveilled. You'll be told if you've said the wrong word, that's it. Your bank, your credit stopped. If you move into these apartments where everything is put in there by the government, you say something wrong, they'll come and take your cooker off you for a week as punishment and then give it you back and say, now, let that be a lesson. Don't do it again. All these sorts of things are going to be happening.
yeah, well, we're already starting to see they're autonomizing everything. So robots are starting to take over everybody's jobs. I mean, look at it like this. Why have humans at a checkpoint that's possibly going to have a human condition where they're going to feel sorry for the people and let them through? Why not have a technology that they can just switch on and we physically can't penetrate that barrier? Is that not a feasible way of them going about it? Do you think they're going to have humans who are just going to let you through a barrier? They're not. But like I said, as me and Gary said, the 5G technology, we're not saying it's going to kill anyone or anything like that. It was originally crowd control tech, and this is what 5G was built from, a military crowd control tech. So they are now controlling the crowd through surveillance, everything, listening, x-ray in your house. Like I said, they can tell who's in the house, everything like that. This goes a lot deeper. Unfortunately, no one's ever had a proper discussion about this because there's too many people out there who will laugh at this and put people down for it. So there's never any been a proper discussion, and they've never released anything properly to the public. If you want to find anything truthful about 5G, you have to really dig, and you have to dig into the military side of it more than the public side of it. They don't want you to know what they've got, and the governments never ever let you know how far along they are in technology. They always like to keep us at least 50 to 100 years behind what they're actually capable of. I mean, let's face it, we was meant to go to the moon, and they phoned up on a landline. It should be enough to tell everyone the technology they're going to make. Put it this way: if you want to entrap people, you build the cage first, don't you? You don't tell them, "Oh, there's a cage there. Do you mind going in?" They build the cage, and then once they trick you into it, the cage is then the trap is sprung, the cage is there. But like I said, the 5G is mainly for surveillance. It will be a cage. You will not be able to move. You will not be allowed to do a bank transfer. You won't be able to give your grandkids a fiver here or there behind their parents' back to go to a party or anything like that. Everything will be monitored. This is what we want about a prison and about containing you. Right, so if you carry on, Gary.
And this is why you should never let them get rid of cash. But
Hmm.
anyway, when the WHO receives information of an event that may constitute a public health emergency of international concern, it shall be as soon as possible or within the specific time offer within 24 hours to collaborate with the state party concerned in assessing the potential for an international disease spread, possible interference with international traffic, and the adequacy of control measures. Such activities may include collaboration with other standard setting organisations and the offer to mobilise international assistance in order to support national authorities in conducting and coordinating on-site assessments when requested by the state party, who shall provide information supporting such an offer.
Right, we already have this. If everybody looks at the Lisbon Treaty and Article 222, this is the UN troops. So
Yeah,
if we start to get a bit uppity and we don't like it and we start kicking off, the UN, the United Nations, are capable of moving forces to different countries. And Article 222 of the Lisbon Treaty is there specifically to quell an uprising. So anytime we try to fight back, they have not our troops, they have the ability to move troops to different countries. So they're not going to put British troops in Britain. They're not going to put French troops in France. They're going to put, say, I don't know, Albanian troops in England. They're going to put English troops in Albania. They're going to do it so you haven't got that humanistic bond with the very people you're oppressing.
Yeah.
This relates to PESCO. This is why PESCO happens. This is full military unification under United Nations.
Yeah.
Right. Carry on.
Where am I now?
The underlined writing. 3 bis.
Within 24 hours of receiving that one, yeah?
Yep.
Within 24 hours of receiving a WHO offer of collaboration, the state party may request additional information supporting the offer. WHO shall provide such information within 24 hours. When 48 hours have elapsed since the initial WHO offer of collaboration, failure by the state party to accept the offer of collaboration shall constitute rejection for the purpose of sharing available information with state parties under paragraph 4 of this section. If the state party does not accept the offer of collaboration within 48 hours, who shall now, when justified by the magnitude of the public health risk, immediately share with other state parties the information available to it, whilst encouraging the state parties to accept the collaboration by the WHO. So that basically means if they offer to send UN troops here and we don't accept, they may send them anymore, it's they're going to send them. So if they think your government should have UN interference and our government are a bit slow in the uptake, they'll send them anyway.
Yep. So if we ever get a government that it starts to be kind of sympathetic to its people, they can override it. Note the bit struck out, taking into account the views of the state party concerned. So it doesn't matter. This is what we're trying to say. There is no more government. There is no more elections. There is no more parliament. There is no more democracy. They override it all.
Yeah.
All right, Article 11. It used to be provisions of information by WHO. It's now the exchange of information. 1. Subject to paragraph 2 of this article, WHO shall send to all state parties and, as appropriate, to relevant UN and, see, notice they put UN in there, so United Nations is coming in all the time here, and it used to be intergovernmental, but it's international and regional organisations. So, again, we're talking about things like the EU Commission, we're talking about the WHO, the WF, and regional organisations as soon as possible and by the most efficient means available, in confidence such public health information which is received under Articles 5 to 10 inclusive, or which is available to the public domain. Alternatively, or which is otherwise available and whose validity is appropriately assessed by WHO. So the WHO are going to be the ones that assess whether this does it or not. So again, an unelected, unaccountable set of bureaucrats, just like the EU, and which is necessary to enable state parties to respond to a public health risk. WHO, it used to be should, but they shall communicate information to other state parties that might help in preventing the occurrence of similar incidents. For this purpose, WHO shall facilitate the exchange of information between state parties and ensure that the event information site for national international health regulations focal points offers a secure and reliable platform for information exchange among the WHO and state parties and allows for interoperability of relevant data information systems. WHO shall use information received under Article 6, 8, and it used to be paragraph 2 of Article 9, and 9 for verification, assessments, and assistance purposes under these regulations, and unless otherwise agreed with the state. They're telling you, okay, what they're telling you is if an uprising starts happening, say in England, they're going to tell all other member states, you shut everything down now. So we're not. It's like the Gillette Johns and the Yellow Vests. Different countries won't be able to do the same thing and come together and all unite. They are not going to allow that. They are going to stop us doing it. They're already seeing it over Europe. They know it's happening. And literally every single country in the Western world is uprising now. And there's been sort of protests and stuff like that. They're not going to have that no more. Parties referred to in those provisions shall make this information generally available to other states' parties. It used to be shall not, but they shall make it. They have to make this information generally available to other states' parties. It used to be until such time as, but it'd be when now. The event is determined to constitute a public health emergency of international concern. A public health emergency of regional concern or warrants an intermediate public health alert in accordance with Article 12, or B. Information evidencing the international spread of the infection or contamination has been confirmed by WHO in accordance with the established epidemiological principles, or there is evidence that control measures against the international spread are unlikely to succeed because of the nature of the contamination, disease agent, vector, or reservoir, or the state party lacks sufficient operational capacity to carry out necessary measures to prevent further spread of disease, or the nature and scope of the international movement of travellers, baggage, cargo, containers, conveyances, goods, or postal parcels that may be affected by the infection of contamination requires the immediate application of international control measures. Now, that's your Amazon deliveries, people. That's your food deliveries. That's everything. Sorry, Den just popped in. Hello, Den. Welcome. Sorry, hello everyone in chat. I haven't been taking notice. Sorry, we've been too busy reading. Thanks for all joining. I hope everyone's getting this. Where was I? Control measures. And they've added the WHO determines it is necessary that such information be made available to other states' parties to make informed, timely risk assessments. 3. The WHO shall, it did say consult with, but it shall inform the state party in whose territory the event is occurring as it is to intend to make information available under this article. New 3. State parties receiving information from WHO pursuant to this provision shall not use it for conflict and violence purposes. State parties shall also handle the information in a manner designed to avoid establishments, personals, non-state actors, that's like the WHO, the UN, or any recipient whatsoever engaging directly or indirectly with conflict and violence elements from accessing such information directly or indirectly. So basically, they're going to stop us having access to the very information that we may all start kicking off about. So when we start seeing players dropping dead on sports fields and all stuff like that, we're not going to be allowed that information. It's like me and Gary have been saying for years. It's like you won't know what's going on in a different province. So one part of Cambridge won't know what's going on in the other part of Cambridge. England won't know what's going on in France. They are going to literally completely separate us, and we'll only be given the information that we are allowed. So if it is likely to make us upset and kick off, they will make sure we don't get it. When information received by WHO under paragraph 2 of this article is made available to states parties in accordance with these regulations, WHO, used to be may also, but WHO shall make it available to the public if other information about the same event has already become publicly available and there is a need for the dissemination of authoritative and independent information. So they're telling you now, they're doing it like they have been. This is fact checkers. So basically, if we accidentally find out about something, the fact checkers are coming in. The information is going to be completely overridden and they're going to force their narrative like they have with the fact checkers. We've been seeing it on Facebook, we're seeing it on Google, we're seeing it on the media. So the only narrative you will ever get access to is that of the WHO and the people that want you to think what they want you to think. There will be no freedom of information, there'll be no freedom of thought anymore. 5. WHO shall annually, that's every year, report to the Health Assembly on all activities under this article, including instances of sharing information that has not been verified by a state party on whose territory an event that may constitute a public health emergency of international concern is or is allegedly occurring with the state parties through alert systems. New paragraph 5. The Director General shall report to the World Health Assembly on all activities under this article as part of their report pursuant to Article 54, including instances of information that has not been verified by a state party in accordance with Article 10. This is complete control of information. Complete. Are people starting to understand what they're saying here? I'll just look at the chat. Let's have a quick look at the chat. We'll have a little pause because this is a lot to take in, Gary. So let's just have a little pause here and we'll have a look at the chat and see what people are saying. I think people are you starting to understand what's being said in this people? I mean, we've got to act now. So enough of the egos, enough of following gimmicks, enough of following like people who create a song and put it in, I don't know, the download charts and you pay 99p. All of that is now got to go aside. This is time now where we have to get serious because once this is implemented properly, we will not ever have this chance again. Me and Gary have been trying to tell you this for years. If you sit on your hands and you do nothing, you are the problem. You are actually helping this, and you're the reason why this is going to happen. So you have to be active in this. You have to be. And again, there is no legal route you can take. You can't vote your way out of this. There is none of that anymore. Okay? So don't think you can use your human rights and fight this legally. Don't think you can just vote a new government in and they're going to say no. This has already been agreed. This is going to go ahead. Right, Gary, if you want to do Article 12. This is a big document, people, and we're going to sit and we're going to try and do all of it. If not, we'll do the second part tomorrow night. But we're going to go through all of this.
Article 12, determination of public health emergencies of international concern, public health emergency of regional concern, or immediate health alert. 1. The Director General shall determine, on the basis of information received, in particular from the state party within whose territory an event is occurring, whether an event constitutes a public health emergency of international concern in accordance with the criteria and the procedures set out in these regulations. 2. If the Director General considers, based on an assessment under these regulations, that a potential or actual public health emergency of international concern is occurring, the Director General shall notify all state parties and seek to consult with the state party in whose territory the event arises regarding this preliminary determination, and may, in accordance with the procedure set forth in Article 49, seek the views of the committee established under Article 48, hereinafter the Emergency Committee, if the views of the committee established under Article 48, sorry, I've said that, if the Director General determines that the event constitutes a public health emergency of international concerns, then that's all crossed out again, look.
Yep.
The Director General shall notify all the state parties in accordance with the procedures set forth in Article 49, seek the views of the, and then he said the committee, but all that's been crossed out, so they ain't got to consult anybody.
Right.
The Emergency Committee now, that's what they're going to do now, on appropriate temporary recommendations. And then all that next Article 3 and that, it's nearly all crossed out.
It did say, in following the consultation paragraph 2 above, the Director General and the state party in whose territory the event arises do not come to a consensus within 40 hours on whether the event constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. A determination shall be made in accordance with the procedure set forth in Article 49. So they're done away now. So basically, There is no way that we can decide whether it's a public health emergency ourselves. They're going to decide for us.
Yeah. So that's your right. That's your right to appeal, etc., or to have a voice, your opinion on it's gone. So, 4, in determining whether an event constitutes a public health emergency of international concern, the Director General shall consider A, the information provided by the state party, by other state parties available in the public domain or otherwise available under Article 5 to 10. B, the decision instrument contained in Annex 2. C, the advice of the Emergency Committee. D, scientific principles as well as the available scientific evidence and other relevant information. And an assessment of the risk to human health, the risk to international spread of the disease, and of the risk of interference with international traffic.
Which is trade.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So basically there, where am I?
Right, you're with the highlighted text now, the bold text.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, so basically there again, they ain't consulting anybody other than their emergency committee. And if their emergency committee says, yeah, this has got to be locked down, that's got to be locked down, shut all the shops, etc., shut all the supermarkets, that will be done because they ain't consulting anybody else other than their emergency committee. You need to really wake up to what's going on here.
No, Danny West, you are absolutely correct, mate. There is absolutely no reason to sneak these people in. This is where people are being misled. People think they're sneaking all these people in, and it's like sleight of hand. You're watching one thing while they're doing another. You're not watching what they're actually doing because you're concentrating on a diversion. So you're exactly
correct, well, basically, mate. The diversion for this has been the World Cup, ain't it? While you've been all cheering the World Cup on, these have been meeting behind closed doors and doing all this while you're focused on your bread and circus of the World Cup.
Yep, and burning your Balenciaga and cutting all your clothes up and stuff like that. While you've been doing all that, this has been happening. Yeah. This happened in November, people. This happened 14th, 15th November. So this was already done, and it was already planned that they was going to do all these distractions beforehand. They get you to concentrate on the bread and circuses, like Gary is saying, and the meat on the bone, you ignore it.
Yeah.
We will have to do this in multiple parts because I don't think, I mean, this is like a 50-page document. So we're going to do the first part tonight. We'll do another part tomorrow and the next night or something like that. But we'll go talk through all this and we'll do it in separate parts so people can get an understanding. Right, if you carry on with the underlined text.
Right. 4. The PHEIC declaration is not designed to mobilise funds in the case of an emergency event. The Director General should use the mechanisms for this purpose. If the Director General, following consultations with the Emergency Committee and relevant state parties, and again that's all been crossed out, look, has occurred, considers that a public health emergency of international concerns has ended, the Director General shall take a decision in accordance with the procedure set out in Article 49. If there is still a need for recommendations, he should consider convening the review committee to advise on issuing standing recommendations in accordance with Articles 16 and 53. Para 6. Where an event has not been determined to meet the criteria for a public health emergency of international concern, but the Director General has determined it requires heightened international awareness and a potential international public health response, the Director General, on the basis of the information received, may determine at any time to issue an intermediate public health alert to state parties and may consult the Emergency Committee in a manner consistent with procedures set out in Article 49.
Chrissy, mate, I admire your dedication to the politics, but you need to read this for yourself. I will put the link up and stuff like that, but you need to read this. Democracy, whether it be government or regional, is now obsolete. They override it all. There is no, there will be no more government. There is no more democracy. This is the one world government being implemented. There is no more democracy when this happens. There is none.
No. There'll be no going to your local councillor or whatever anymore. They won't exist.
No. If you carry on that bit, what we'll do is get to this and then we'll stop doing this and we'll have a little chat and then we'll do part 2 tomorrow night or something.
Right. New 6. The Director General, in the event, if the event is not designated as a public health emergency of international concern, based on the opinion and advice of the Emergency Committee, may designate the event as having the potential to develop into a public health emergency of international concern. Communicate this and then recommend measures to the state parties in accordance with procedures set out in Article 49. The Director General may determine that an event constitutes a regional public health emergency of international concern or an intermediate public health emergency of international concern and provide guidance to the parties as appropriate. Such determination shall be in accordance with the processes set out in this article for the determination of a public health emergency of international concern. Immediately after the determination of the w.h.o, the activities of the WHO in relation to such w.h.o shall be in accordance with the provisions in these regulations. The Director General shall report all activities carried out by the WHO, including references to the corresponding programmes to these regulations pursuant of Article 654. A regional director may determine that in an event constitutes a public health emergency of regional concern and provided related guidance to the state parties in the region either before or after notification of an event, they may constitute a public health emergency of international concern. Let's lift it up a bit, Nave. Well, that's on there. Is the Director General who shall inform all state parties. Immediately after the determination of the w.h.o, the activities of the WHO in relation to such w.h.o, including through partnerships or collaborations, shall be in accordance with the provisions in these regulations. The Director General shall report all the activities carried out by the WHO, including references to the corresponding provisions of these regulations in pursuance of Article 54. In the case of any engagement with non-state actors, the WHO public health response to w.h.o situation, WHO shall follow the provisions of the framework for engagement of non-state actors, FENSA. Any departure from FENCA provisions shall be consistent with paragraph 73 of the FENSA. A regional director may determine that an event constitutes a public health emergency of regional concern or issue an intermediate health alert and implement related measures to provide advice and support for capacity building in state parties in the region either before or after notification of the event. If the event meets the criteria for the public health emergency of international concern after the notification of the event that constitutes a public health emergency of regional concerns, The Director General shall inform all state parties.
Yep.
So, again, this is just carte blanche to do what they want to do. Notify if they feel like it. If they don't, well, it's a need to know basis. They ain't telling you nothing, basically.
No, they're not going to. I'm going to have to back Danny West up in the chat here. No, we don't have to do anything with UN troops. We are part of the UN. PESCO, well, what is PESCO? Military Unification was signed by Truss a number of months ago. It is now fully in force. Our army is no longer belonging to us, neither is our weaponry, our missiles, and everything like that. It's actually all been signed over. So Danny West is 100% correct. They don't have to sneak the UN troops in here. I mean, Theresa May, back when she was in office, she actually started the application for Article 222 of the Lisbon Treaty to actually get military help to stop an uprising. The only problem is they would have created more of an uprising if they'd have acted it back then. So now they need to do it this way. So Danny West is 100% correct. Okay. We are part of the UN. Our troops have been amalgamated into it. We are part of the UN, so they don't need to sneak people here on dinghies. They can actually just bring them over. There is one thing people do need to know though. During COVID, while we've all been locked down, thousands upon thousands of bits of legislation was actually enacted into our books, and one of the parts of that legislation was the fact that security guards, i.e. security personnel, can actually be deputized by, like, for instance, the army or the UN. So, for instance, take the statistics. There's roughly 11,000 illegal immigrants working. It's supposed, this is government statistics. There's roughly 11,000 illegal immigrants working in private security at the moment. Those people can actually, most of these are probably military. Most of them, they can actually be deputized by the UN Army to do the work of the UN Army. So they could be the ones that are patrolling your streets, locking you down, things like that. There was a lot more to this than people had been paying attention to. This is why me and Gary have been shouting this from the rooftops since well before Brexit. They've had this plan for a very long time. And Chrissy, I've got your number now. We are going to be bringing more people in to discuss this. We just done tonight's show just to get this into it. So, Chrissy, I would like to have you on to have your views on the political side, because this pretty much wipes out politics. I want a few other people to come on as well. So we're going to end reading this document here. We're going to start again tomorrow night and do part 2, because there's a lot for people to actually kind of digest. So I want it to do it so people can actually go back, watch this again, and actually understand what they're actually proposing here. I mean, all I'm going to say is it gets worse and worse and worse as we go through this document. A lot worse. This is complete control.
They're taking away all your rights, all your dignity, and all your freedoms, whether you like it or not. You ain't going to have a say in it unless you, as people, actually all rise up and say enough's enough, and we ain't consenting. That's the only way this is going to stop.
And I'm not. I'm going to have to refer to something Chrissy Morris says here. It's like democracy is in the mind of the people, and that is never a truer statement said. Okay, democracy now doesn't lie in the ballot box. Democracy lies now in our action to secure democracy. We are once again at the same stage as we was in 1215, in the 1300s, in the 1600s. We now have to re-establish our rights and reaffirm our position. And we have to fight again for democracy to be what we all class as democracy. So Chrissy Morris, thank you for that statement, because he said democracy is in the mind of the people. If you truly want democracy, you will stand, you will fight. But understand this, if you carry on going the legal route, your name in all uppercase capital letters is a legal fiction. That's why on your birth certificate it says you can't use it for identification, because that is actually a corporation. Okay? When you go to court, whenever you get a loan, whenever you do anything, you're actually doing it as a corporation. You're actually committing fraud, because you're actually pretending to be that corporation when you're not. Once you realize this and you separate yourself from that corporation, okay, once the living men and women come back to life in this country and start rising up, we will have democracy again. We are seeing the dying throes of democracy right before our eyes. And it is going to be, and I'm telling you now, all the people that are trying to get independence, all the people that are trying to get into politics now, stop. Regroup, gather yourself, because when we do finally stand, when we do finally find within ourselves brave enough to fight for our democracy again, we are going to need every single one of you independents to actually learn the Constitution and actually govern by the rule of law and actually make sure this never happens again. And this is a responsibility each and every single person has. Not a single one of us can negate this duty. It is a duty to all of us, for our kids, for our grandkids, and for ourselves. We all have a duty now to actually act. So no more standing in the parks, no more standing in the streets, no more writing petitions. You now have to do this by the due process of law, because this is what they're doing. They're overwriting the due process of law, and they're using international laws and their capability to create international laws to do this.
See, what you don't realise, ladies and gentlemen, is when, like Nathan just hit the nail on the head, it's your moral and lawful duty to do this, because if you don't, your silence is consent. Let that sink in. If you don't do anything now, your silence is consent, and you are condemning your children to a life of enslavement.
And I can tell you now, when we're all going to London, we're doing our marches, they're not even in Parliament, so they don't see it, so that we're silent. Until we actually put pen to paper and we do the due process of law, and that is the only way of doing this, we remain silent as a nation. So get your Article 61. Actually do the due process of law. There's a reason why this was invoked, because the Nice Treaty, literally the whole of the European Union, we can't be governed or ruled by a foreign entity. That is a constitutional law. Once you start upholding that, they have no power.
No.
The Constitution is the very tool that will stop this.
These people have been a tumultuous assembly since 2001, ladies and gentlemen. Wake up.
Yep.
I don't know what else you can say to them, Nathan. You know, we've been telling them, banging this same drum since 2016. Article 61 will sort out every problem that there is. It'll sort your migrant problem out. It'll sort this problem out with these evil, but I can't say because I don't swear. Yeah. But it'll stop these as well. It stops everything. It's a bit like domestos.
It kind of is. That's a good euphemism, actually.
Yeah. So it's up to you. It's up to the people. It's no good trying to say, well, you and Nathan sorts it, or you, Nathan, and a few thousand others sort it. No, it's going to take every single person. If you love your children, like you say you do, it's a no-brainer, especially now with this document, because this document is very damning, and you've only got a small window of opportunity to stop this now, or end up enslaved. Your choice. Like I keep saying on it all the time. You will reap what you sow.
And this is the reason why Clause 61 or Article 61 on the Magna Carta 1215, which is still in force, and I can prove that conclusively, has always been a go-to for us, because there's a reason why its nickname is the Kingslayer. Okay, in all constitutions around the world, okay, the American Constitution, they borrowed from ours. Okay, so the Magna Carta is the foundation of our Constitution. Okay, that's why they keep telling you that there's no constitution, because they don't want you to realise that there is actually a modem that overpowers them, and we have the power to do that. Okay, there is such things in Magna Carta and our Constitution that states only those that know the law and mean to observe it well may uphold the law. Yeah. But at the moment, our government, our courts, they're not observing the law. They're not observing the Constitution that stops them from doing this. And the reason why they're not doing that is because we stopped observing it. We stopped upholding it. That is the problem. Yeah. The problem lies with us. Yeah. Okay, so we can't blame government. We can't be. I mean, let's face it. Take an opportunity thief. I mean, what they call them, doorstep things. Was it doorstep pirates? If there's a big flat screen TV on a doorstep and you're out all day at work and it's been left there for 5 hours, you're gonna get an opportunity to come and steal it. That's all the government's done. We have looked the other way and they've stolen what's ours because we've allowed them to do that.
And they've also convinced you that they are sovereign and you're not, which is the biggest load of tripe I've ever heard in my life.
Yep. I mean, if we're not sovereign, if our sovereignty is not powerful, why have the EU been trying to basically telling us we must give more of our sovereignty? We must give more of our sovereignty because it has to be done by consent. And as Gary says, silence is acquiescence. Acquiescence is consent. So unless you actually put pen to paper, do your Article 61, and you actually act in accordance to the due process of law, you're actually agreeing to this happening.
Yeah. And they've convinced you through the television and everything that they, you know, they are your masters instead of it's actually the other way around. They govern us by consent, but they are now with all this lot more or less telling you, no, we're the boss, you do as you're told. And it's about time the people, not just in England and the UK, but the whole world stood up to these tyrannous psychopaths and said, enough's enough, we ain't doing it no more. We're withdrawing our consent. Once you do that, these are finished.
Right. Danny West wants to ask a question. Of course you can, Danny. You know us. We welcome all questions, even if however difficult they are. If we can answer them, we will.
You'll have to read it now. If I can't see the chat, I've only got my mobile.
Yeah, it's all right. I'll read it as soon as he puts it up. Well, this is the thing, Emma. It does come down to numbers, but this is where this is a catalyst. This is a catalyst for us to actually drop the egos, because I'm not being funny. There's no one group, and CMW, British Resistance, a number of groups, we've actually all been getting together behind the scenes because we've dropped the egos. We've realised that no one group, no one person is going to save the day. It is only as a mass collective we're going to do this. So, yes, we're going to have to rely on the people that know the Constitution and know the law. And we're going to have to rely on after that's sorted, then we're going to have to rely on people that know politics and know how things should be run. We've all got our place and we've all got our job to do. It's just we have to drop the egos and just set aside our ego. So the best man for the job, basically. Right, here we go. What is common law assent, mate? What's the difference? To be fair, mate, if you're talking about the group, I've spoke to actually the lady in charge of common law assent. She actually seems like a lovely lady. Common law assent, basically, it's kind of an oxymoron if we go by the wording, because to assent to something means you write something. It means you go up. We're a common law jurisdiction, so we don't have to assent to anything. We naturally have it. I mean, I could actually put stuff in the next live about the police, for instance, having to uphold common law before legislation and stuff like that. We don't assent to common law. We are a common law jurisdiction. We just have to start upholding it. So what our system is based on, what our lives have been policed by for a long time with our own communities, not so much the police, but amongst ourselves, doing right and wrong, not harming others and stuff like that. We live by common law. So common law assent, all that means is rising to common law. It's kind of an oxymoron. It doesn't. It's not correct. But if you're on about the common law assent group, I have spoke to the lady in charge, and she's doing her utmost best to learn, and she's trying to put out the best information she can. And this is what I'm saying. It's not just me and Gary. There's many of us that are learning this. Many of us have actually bothered to take the time. And I don't mean the people that will read a little pamphlet, then run off and start a political party or run off and start PayPal. There's people that have actually spent a number of years and a lot of their time learning this. And this is the people we're trying to gather at the moment. Hopefully that answers your question, mate.
You got it's now or never, ladies and gentlemen, because this is not going to go away. You can't bury your head in the sand on this one and just think, oh, I'll just keep quiet till the law go away on its own. Tyranny, and we've said this many times as well, tyranny and oppression and corruption does not go away by itself. Never has done, and it never will.
Yeah, you can't comply your way out of tyranny. You can't.
No.
Because the more you comply, the more you put it this way. It comes back to the phrase where give them an inch and they'll take a mile. And you are literally seeing this in real time. We've gave them an inch and they are literally taking a mile.
Yeah. Because every time you comply, they think, oh, these are stupid. Look at these idiots here. Well, take these to the cleaners. And then the more tyranny they put on you, and then you still ain't doing anything about it. It's too. I bet if you could take a poll now amongst them and an honest poll, they can't believe how easy this has been. You know, they expected, well, they probably expected it to fail at the first hurdle. And now it's not. You can see with this document, they're just getting more and more confident and more brazen with what they're doing.
Right, 2 seconds. Let me just say, logical thinker. Right. People do say it's actually 4 laws of Magna Carta that were made. This is a subversion, and I've proven this in court, and I'm happy to debate people like the Black Belt Barrister and everyone on this. If you look at House's Laws of England, and you look at the force, and what they are is they're not. They're actually called constitutional statutes, and this should be enough to show all the people that say that we don't have a constitution that we do, because they put 4 constitutional statutes onto the statute book. But the constitutional statutes on our statute book don't come from 1215. It's like Jack Straw said in 2000 when the Human Rights Declaration was actually implemented. The Magna Carta is as binding on the Crown today as the day it was sealed in Runnymede. Now, there was only one Magna Carta sealed at Runnymede, and that was 1215. The 4 clauses we have in our statute books are actually from the 1297 Edward Magna Carta. So it's not the 1215. So basically what happened is the 1215 was written, and then the king kept, successive kings kept reissuing their version of Magna Carta to use in a legal manner. And this is why people need to go with the lawful, not the legal, because all they've done is take and adapt what is our laws, our freedoms, our customs, our liberties, our rights, and they have amalgamated them into legal language. But when they amalgamate them into legal language, it's kind of an oxymoron because it's actually doing away with them. But no, there is not 4 clauses. 1215 is in full force. If you read clause 1 of Magna Carta 1215, it states in the first clause of Magna Carta 1215 that everything in that document from that clause onwards is there in perpetuity. It means forever, and it cannot be altered, it cannot be changed. This is also backed up in clause 61 and clause 63.
Yeah, 100%. But they tell you that for a reason. But then when they need, like Gina Miller did, and like w.h.o did when he needed it, they use the Constitution. It's funny that, isn't it? But you can't use it when you need it because there's only 4 clauses left till it suits them.
Karen Frost, the Terra Carta absolutely never ever has or never will overwrite Magna Carta. The Terra Carta, if I remember correctly, I think that's a papal document. That relates to the Pope, who thinks he's the world king, the overseer of all the whole world. We did away with that his rule in 1215. No, Magna Carta cannot be overruled. It cannot be changed. It cannot be adapted. It is a peace.
Well, that's what makes you laugh. That when they say the Pope annulled it, the Pope can't annul it because he was not part of the agreement.
No. That's why we have no foreign prince or prelate within Magna Carta, because the Vatican, the UN, the WF, the EU, no foreign body can have rule over us.
Yeah. No foreign prince or prelate
or ecclesiastical. Yes. Yeah, it's there in ecclesiastical. It's no church. So we're talking the Vatican, we're talking WF, we're talking the EU. By our constitution, if we uphold our constitution, they have no right to rule.
No. It's all, it's down, basically all it is, ladies and gentlemen, you've just got to get some confidence, get off your knees, because these people have got you on your knees and you shouldn't be on the knees. You should be proud of who you are. Stand up and start saying, no, you're not doing this to me anymore. I am not a punch bag. You are not going to use me on your experiments. I'm not a pincushion to be jabbed whenever it suits you. I'm a living man. I'm a living woman, and start standing up to these people.
Let me just address what Karen said. It was signed by our future monarch, so I understand. Well, that's an oxymoron in itself as well, Karen, because it can't be signed by a future monarch because only a monarch can sign anything and ratify anything. But even the monarch can't override Magna Carta 1215. It's not within his power because he has to. It's a peace treaty, so it has to be an agreement between the people and the king to change Magna Carta. That has never happened, and I don't think it ever will happen. Okay, and a future monarch cannot decide our fate. The same as Parliament. The Parliament now can't bind the Parliament in the future. Chrissy Morris will tell you this himself. No Parliament now can. So Parliament can't do something now that will bind the powers of Parliament in the future. The reason why our constitution is so strong is because we have had all these problems and we've already fought for all these problems for thousands of years. We've already gone through all this, and we again and again lost millions of lives fighting the crown and fighting the powers that be to make sure that this doesn't happen. It can't happen. Once people understand the truth and you stand in that truth, there is no power they hold. That's why Magna Carta, you undergo diffidatio. So you actually take away your fealty. So you take away your allegiance. So the king and the crown authorities, I mean, it'd be arguable, but I'll say the king and the St. Edward crown authorities have no power over you because it's a contract. It's a peace treaty.
And that's why the Magna Carta came about in the first place, because the king was trying to, be the head honcho. He was taxing people to the hilt and everything during the wars in France, and he was, people couldn't live. And it was because of his actions that the Magna Carta came about in the first place. So there's no way another thing can come over the top of him and then annul it or anything without the people's say so.
Well, this is what I'm saying people don't understand about the Magna Carta. When we enacted Magna Carta and the king had to sign it, the royal family and the royal lineage actually broke its bond and its word with the Vatican. So we stopped being they've done it now. St. Edward's crown come back around about Cromwell's time. That's why we're legal fictions. That's why you've got the City of London and stuff like that. But what happened is we separated ourselves from the Pope, the Vatican, and what the royal family was had allegiance to, and we've become an entity of our own. That's why we are sovereign. That's why the people are the law. That's why Magna Carta Clause 61 is so relevant, because it's the first time in history. I mean, the Americans claim it, but they're very ill educated on it. It's actually what made everybody equal under the law. So the king is not above the law, and it was Article 61 that did that. But when we enacted 1215, the king and the royal family and the royal lineage, they actually was then breached a contract with the Vatican, so they then become owned by the Vatican. We didn't. There was a lot of complex legal and lawful matters involved in how the power sort of keeps transferring. But in essence, since 1215, there technically hasn't been a lawful government. There hasn't been a lawful rule because it hasn't been constitutionally done.
And I'd also, before Charles signed anything, I'd like to see his proof of legitimacy that that the Saxe-Coburns are actually the true royal family.
I mean, I need to explain this as well. A lot of people seem to think you just sign your 61 and it's a magical cure. No, it's not. 61 notifies the powers that be that we no longer stand under anything they do, and it gives us the lawful right to remove these tyrannous and treasonous people. So we can physically remove these people once lawful due process is actually been gone through. So we have to go through the lawful process to lawfully completely remove all these people from office.
Yeah. And that's why you can't just go and start, dragging them out and everything until you've done your due process, because that makes you just as unlawful as them. But once you've done your due process, it's a different story. You can start doing these things we want to do.
Chrissy, you're exactly right. Magna Carta is what kicked off. Well, actually, we had the Malmontine laws and we had constitutions before that, but to what we have established as our constitution today, Magna Carta is the foundation document. It is what literally created freedoms for the people. This is, I mean, and you're exactly right. Most people want to, and this is the narrative. It's like, oh, it's like medieval, but we enjoy the rights given to us by Magna Carta to this day, like trial by jury. Well, we're meant to have trial by jury. We're meant to have a lot of things within it, but you don't know because you're not taught in schools that it's Magna Carta is the reason why we're so free, that we can actually travel up and down the country and do it at our own free will. But it is true. I mean, let's face it, Magna Carta was actually used in a massive case. I think it was as recently as 2008 in America, because they have Magna Carta as the base for their constitution as well as our Bill of Rights.
And a lot of people don't realise it was the removal of the civics from the schools in the 50s is why the governments are getting away with what they're getting away for, because we was taught civics at school and basically showed how government works, etc., etc. So everybody knew how it worked, not just people who wanted to go into politics. So you could keep an eye on it yourself just with your basic knowledge, and you could see when it was starting to go, rogue. But since they've took that out, you can't now because it's not taught no more.
Exactly correct. They've done it on purpose. They made us think politics is boring, so we just let them get on with it. And the problem is we've gone, oh, it's boring, just get on with it. So we've allowed them to get on with it. And while we're ignoring what they're doing, they've been doing all of this.
Oh, yeah. They say ignorance is no excuse. And that's what we've been. Not intentionally, but we've been ignorant of what they've been doing. Because you've got, like now, the World Cup's on. So people are more interested in the World Cup than what's actually paying attention to this. And it's your ignorance that's got you where you are, but you haven't done it intentionally, because a lot of people like you've just hit the nail on the head are not interested in all this shit politics and what have you. They're not.
Karen Frost, our barons are not technically silent. Our barons invoked Article 61 in 2001. That's over 20 years ago. And we've been trying to get people and everybody's just ignored it. So they ain't silent. It's just the barons can't do anything until they have the weight of the people. So until the people go into 61, the barons have no power because we have to take it away from the monarch and we have to give it to the barons. Then the barons can keep the monarch in check. They can't do it off their own back. They need the backing of our sovereignty.
If they go and do it, without the backing of the people, they're treasonous.
Well, Danny, if they get rid of if they get rid of House Lords and the barons within it, they get rid of the 25 barons that it was their constitutional duty to make sure that we don't undergo this tyranny, and they've actually complied with it. They invoked Article 61, so they've done their job. So as soon as we get rid of 25 barons, we're getting rid of our security clause. So we have no protection against these people.
Yeah. This is what people don't understand. You get rid of the monarchy, which is trying to do now. Always the monarchy outdated and all these headlines in the papers and that. And everybody's going, yeah. You don't realise you get rid of the monarchy and your constitution and everything's finished. Yes, the monarchy is bad. The monarchy is corrupt, etc. But it's not the office that they hold that's corrupt. It's the people who are in that office doing the job that's corrupt. So you need to replace the monarchy, yes, but not the office that it holds that gives us these rights.
That's it. But you've got to separate the position and the office from that of the human and the person sitting on the throne. They are two
exactly.
Right. Look, I'm going to wrap it up there, and we're going to do part 2 tomorrow, the next day if it's out, because this is a lot for people to digest. Right. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Please share this, get as much of this out as possible. I don't know, grab the document, do your own lives. I don't know, but this needs to get to everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for listening, and I hope you listen. I do hope you are listening and you take this seriously, because this is very, very serious now. Very serious. This is no longer a joke. This is no longer a conspiracy.
This is a matter of life and death in the kind of way because, like I said, if you've seen it and if you've been watching all the time, this is going to involve our food chain. This is going to involve everything. They are going to
Yeah.
dictate every single aspect of our lives, whether we're allowed it or whether we ain't.
Well,
And
basically, you're allowing them to create famines because all they've got to say, like you said, is, "Oh, this farm's had a couple of these and slaughtered 400 to 500,000 cattle and sheep and pigs," and then your food chain's gone, and
yeah,
there's a famine.
very true, logical thinker. Everything me and Gary have been saying for about the last decade, and everything everybody else has been saying that everyone's been called mental and insane and a conspiracy theorist. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's actually a conspiracy. I mean, most people, if they're going to call you a conspiracy theorist, ask them to look up the definition of conspiracy. It's when two or more people get together and conspire to commit an act. So it is a
Yeah.
conspiracy when we get a group of people conspire to take away our constitution or take away our rights. So it's a fact. But
Yeah.
right, thank you for tuning, everybody. We're going to cut it off there because we've been going for a couple of hours now, and that I think is enough to digest. For one, this is a very big document, and there's a lot to digest. We'll be doing part two either tomorrow or next day. We'll try and go live around about 8, 9 ish at the same time. Thank you, everyone,
And
for tuning in.
it does get more shocking as it goes on.
Oh yes. All right, thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Please. Have a look. It's the amendments to the international health regulations. Have a look, read through it. Chrissy, if you need it sent to you, I'll send it to you, mate. Have a look through it. Get to grips with it. Understand what they're going to do. Knowledge is power. Forewarned is forearmed. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, good night, guys.